On today's episode, Eddie and Webby finally discover who let the dogs out. This is the Eddie and Webby podcast.
Guyaberas. Oh, hey, how's it going? This is Webby, not Eddie.
And I'm Eddie, and this is our 19th podcast.
Oh, yeah, episode number 19. Wow.
If our episode was a person, they'd be able to go to Canada and drink now.
Yeah, legally.
I feel like every episode I start off by saying it's a very special episode, but once again, we have another very special episode.
We do. This is another milestone episode, I would say. I am super excited for today's episode. And if you're wondering why I'm excited for today's episode, the reason for that is we have a very special guest today. And it's not just a regular guest. Today we have a guest host.
What?
That's right. For the entire show, we are going to have a guest host joining us.
It's crazy.
So not only is our special guest going to join us for the beer review, not only are they going to be joining us for the return of our technology segment, they are also going to be joining us for our pickleball segment. The entire show, folks, we have a special guest host.
That is amazing. I can't believe we're doing this, guys, but we are doing it.
So without further ado, why don't we introduce who our guest host is? This is a person who has been a good friend of myself as well as Eddie's for many years now. We actually work for the same company together. He's the first person I ever knew in real life that did a podcast. So I was always very interested in that. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show our first ever guest host, Glenn. How's it going, Glenn?
Hey, that is an unbelievable intro. To start, it's the 19th episode. So this is, like you guys said, this is a milestone Canadian birthday episode for you guys. So it's I am really honored to be here. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Well, you're welcome.
Well, Glenn, we're super excited to have you on here. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself before we kind of jump into the remainder of the show?
My name's Glenn. Covered that pretty good. I had a podcast for a little while. I've actually done a few different podcasts. Had one that was sort of our main called Bonfire Tales, where we had people come on and tell us stories that from their life. And they didn't have to be like the craziest story or anything like that. It was just a story that they really enjoyed telling. It ended up being that most of them were pretty crazy stories, but it was kind of a mix. You know, there was some heartwarming ones and then some weird ones. I did a hip hop podcast for a little while. I was a guest host on that one a few times, which is not my forte, but it was a lot of fun to jump in there and give it a shot. And an Addicted Gamblers one. So
Ooh.
That was a little heavier than the other ones, but still it was interesting. So now I'm glad I get to talk about pickleball, I think it's called, is what you guys are all about, and beer and pickleball. So beer I'm a little more familiar with, pickleball not so much.
Well, it's good. That sounds like you are a perfect guest for the show then. As you guys know, the format of the show, we talk beer, tech, and pickleball. But before we do any of that, Webby, what is going on in Twitter?
Ah, yes, the wonderful world of Twitter. Let me go ahead and pull Twitter up here and see what kind of comments we've got today. Here's one from Walanda Rousey. At Eddie and Webby, I absolutely love the guest segments you've had lately. I can't wait to see who you have on next. Oh, nice. Thanks, Walanda.
Yeah, thank you, Walanda. That's very nice of you.
All right, let's go to another one here. Here's one from Puke Skywalker. At Eddie and Webby are a couple of no-talent idiots. Please stop making videos.
Ouch.
Ouch. Jeez.
Yeah.
That might be the harshest one yet.
That's hurtful.
Yeah, that one hurt a little bit. Barf. I mean, puke.
Yeah, I mean, I guess thanks for that. I mean, we appreciate all feedback. But yeah, let's go on. Let's move on to the next one. Let's do one more. Here's one from Hans Solo Cup. At Eddie and Webby, I loved the sneak peek pickleball parody song you guys did a while ago, but where is the full video? That's a great question.
I'm glad that they asked so that I didn't have to, because that was one of the very first things I wanted to talk about with you guys.
Yeah, and that's actually not the first time somebody has made that kind of comment. We did a sneak peek a few episodes back of the Next to Music video that we're working on, and we've been getting hundreds, if not millions, of comments asking about when we're going to release that video. And all I can say is stay tuned. I mean, it's taking a little bit longer than we expected, but it'll be worth the wait, I think.
I saw it trending the other day.
Yeah, we've had literally millions of people requesting it. So
yes, on a daily basis.
Yep.
Yes, like millions per day. So don't worry, fans. We'll get that out there. But yeah, that's it for the Twitter sphere for today.
Nice. Well, thank you for that, Webby. If you guys want to leave feedback, go ahead and send us a tweet. You can throw comments down below. And you can also download the Anchor app and leave us a message that we'll be able to play on the air if it's good. If it's good. Or even if it's not that good, we might play it as well. So you never know.
That's true. You really never know.
Yeah. Well, this is the part of the podcast when we do a beer review. And, 2 episodes ago, we had great success with Blair as a guest to do the beer review with us. And also great success from the last episode with Cassie. So we thought we definitely wanted to make sure that Glenn could be included in it.
So yeah, Glenn, no pressure, but the last 2 guests we've had did an excellent job with the beer review. So no pressure, but we expect a lot from you.
Webby, what beer are we going to be reviewing today?
Well, I just so happen to have a beer right here. And this beer comes to us from Cigar City Brewing. That's right, another one from Cigar City Brewing. We are continuing our summer Cigar City series. And this one is called Guayabera, I think. Guayabera Citra Pale Ale, maybe Guayabera, something like that.
I think you were right with the first one, Guyaberas. I actually downloaded a YouTube video earlier to actually hear how it is pronounced. So I'm going to go ahead and play that for us right now so we can get clarity on it.
All right.
Guyaberas. Guyaberas. Guyaberas.
Oh.
Yeah, Guyaberas.
All right.
That was perfect.
Samsonite. I was way off.
So, Glenn, I know that we reached out to you to see if you could get this beer in advance.
Yeah.
How'd you do?
Well, you guys told me what it was, and I went to the store. And when I was at the store, I decided I didn't want it. So I got something that I'm a little more familiar with. Let's get the, I don't know if there's like rights or anything to this, but I got a nice Bud Light. This is a January 2018 vintage. And it was much cheaper than what you guys had chose. So that's what I went with.
Very nice. I mean, it sounds like you got like the second best thing or something very comparable to what we were drinking. So very nice.
It's my go-to.
It's cool. You and Post Malone, man, you guys can hang out and drink your Bud Light, man.
And I'm sure most craft beer lovers watching this would really appreciate the fact that you brought a Bud Light to the show.
There's got to be some, just regular Joe pickleballs out there that, they're not in it for the beer. They're in it for the sport. So this is more up their alley.
That's right.
So, Glenn, let me ask you, I think it was probably like 4 or 5 years ago, I got you a Christmas gift with that craft beer. What was that called?
Yeah. Krampus.
Krampus. Is that still collecting dust on your shelf, or?
It's turned into decoration on my kitchen counter. At this point, I probably would have drink it if you gave it to me today, but it sat out for so long. I'm sort of afraid what'll happen if I open it.
I do think that maybe one of the next times I'm up in Michigan, we should crack that and do a review on that because it's probably aged very nicely on your shelf there.
It's aged nicely, I can't say.
Well, if you want to follow along with us as we go through our review and you can share your thoughts on the Bud Light, that would be much appreciated. Now, usually we do the Before You Pour where we talk about Cigar City, but I think this is, Webby, is this our 4th Cigar City beer we've done?
It is.
So we're not going to do that today. Instead, we're just going to go right into pouring the beer and talking about it. Let's go ahead and crack the cans and pour them into our glasses.
Fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
Here's the description according to the Cigar City website.
Whoop, hold on. I got a little overflowage.
Uh-oh.
Man, not since Dale's Pale Ale have I had an overflow like this. How about you keep talking while I go wipe this up?
I'll do that. Here's the description according to the Cigar City website. Traditional throughout Latin America, the Guyaberas shirt combines style, functionality, form, and tradition in its 4-pocketed design. We at Cigar City feel the same reverence and appreciation for the Guayabera that we do for the Citra hop varietal, an ingredient that imparts notes of tangerine, lime, and berries to this traditional American pale ale. The exclusive use of Citra hops in this beer creates a flavor that's at once unique and recognizable, while its dry, crisp character and moderate alcohol make it as refreshing and functional as a crisp linen Guayabera. I think I said Guayabera 3 different ways throughout that description, so apologize.
And after we listened to that audio pronunciation tutorial, you'd think you'd have got it right.
Yeah, it just isn't sticking with me for some reason. But
it's a tricky one.
Yeah.
And I'm back in action now. Did I miss anything?
Oh, no, I just went through the whole description, but I'll redo it right now. I'm just kidding. I got to say, man, Cigar City absolutely crushes it with their descriptions. The fact that they bring in history as well as the flavors and aromas of the beer, it's pretty awesome.
Oh, for sure. I agree wholeheartedly.
Well, Webby, did you salvage your beer? Are you good?
Yes, I'm good. Did you guys pour yet?
We already poured our beers. And Glenn, you good?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Nice.
Can't be bad with the Bud Light.
That's right. Let's nerd it out a little bit with the Guayabera. This falls under BJCP category 18B, which is American Pale Ale, which we've done a few of these in our reviews. It's a very popular style. The ABV is 5.3%, which is right in line with the style. And the IBUs are 50, which is more at the tippity top of that style of beer. So it's going to have some nice bitterness to it. This beer is available year-round. And let's just jump into the review. As you know, we always start with the appearance. And mine's a little hazy. I wouldn't necessarily call it cloudy. Probably more hazy than cloudy.
Yeah, when I observe it with my eyes, I definitely see some haze.
Yeah.
It's a nice golden color. It's really pretty. There's bubbles dancing around at the bottom. I think they've done a nice job with this.
So, Glenn, does your Bud Light, does it have any haze to it? Any sediment?
Oh no. This thing has been finely filtered, and I'd say put through the highest of quality standards that a beer can be.
Very nice. Next, we jump into the aroma. Give it some sniffies here. Glenn, you got to get your nose way in there, man.
Oh, yeah.
This smells good.
It takes me back to my childhood.
So I actually got a good whiff the moment that it started overflowing onto me. So right away I knew that I was enjoying the smell.
Yeah, I'm definitely, man, I'm getting like lime, like not lime like that citradelic pale that we did, but like just like a nice hint of lime. Maybe like some orangey or clementine-y kind of notes. But I'm getting some malt too. It's not just all hops in your face. There's definitely some malt character to it in the aroma as well.
Yeah, I'm getting hoppiness, and then like you said, just like a nice hint of lime. I was a little bit nervous about this one because I was having some flashbacks to the Citradelic where that was just like an explosion in your face of citrus and lime, and not in a good way. But I am pleasantly surprised with how good this one smells.
Hey, Glenn, does your Bud Light smell like bad decisions?
I was gonna say I'm getting I'm getting notes of day after a house party, and this looks like a dirty pool hall. All what you would expect from a Bud Light.
Very nice. Well, now my favorite part, the flavor. Let's go ahead and take some sips here.
Oh yeah, my favorite part.
Wow, that's very nice. I'm surprised at how much of a, almost like a grassy or lemongrass flavor that's really sticking out in this beer to me. I don't know, Webby, are you getting that?
Yeah, I get a little bit of that.
Almost like an essential oil lemongrass kind of flavor. It's very pleasant. Don't get me wrong. It's just stronger than I expected based on the aroma. And so this actually is a single malt beer, which means they only used one type of base malt in brewing it, which sometimes can lead to like a very dull flavor to it. But I'm telling you, like the malts coming through is very complex. It's not too single-sided like I thought it would be.
Yeah, it's I'm enjoying it. It's pretty tasty.
Yeah.
I gotta tell you guys, after hearing this description, there's a part of me that's kind of regretting my decision to just go with the Bud Light. Granted, it's a mainstay, but to hear about these citrus notes and lemongrass, and I'm just getting Bud Light. That's the flavor that this has.
Yeah, I was going to say, does it taste like beer?
Right, yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Beer.
Yep.
That's what it is.
Yeah, it tastes like how beer tasted to me until I was like old enough to drink. So that's about the flavor you get from it.
This might be a shocker to people, but I think I would choose this over Bud Light when I'm at the stores. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, me too. It edges it out slightly, but I think I would go with this one.
That is a ringing endorsement. Next time, if I get to come back, I don't know if I will after this little mess up on my end. I think I'll go with I'll follow the lead. I'll do the right thing and get the beer.
Well, why don't we jump into the mouthfeel? I'm definitely getting some moderate carbonation, and this is definitely a medium to full body beer. There's definitely a lot of body to support those hops, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'd say it feels like a medium to full body in my mouth.
Let me give it another, really focusing on that mouthfeel.
Yeah, how many bodies would you say that that Bud Light feels like in the mouth?
I'd say one, but just the part of the body that's made out of water. So 70% of a body.
I like it.
All right.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, overall impression, Webby, why don't you start off with your overall impression of this beer?
Yeah, so I've got to say I am enjoying this. I would definitely purchase this again in the future. I feel like this is a good summertime beer. I feel like I would enjoy it most while outdoors on a hot day. If I want something a little on the lighter side, this is a really good choice. It has a little bit of the hoppiness, a little bit of the maltiness, but that little bit of citrus to it. It just kind of reminds me of being outside in the summer. So I might not get it if it was in the winter. This might not even be available in the winter, but I would if I knew I was going to be outdoors for a while, I would happily pick up a case of this.
Nice. And Glenn, what about you?
Well, in all honesty, yeah, 10 out of 5 will buy again. Whether or not it's good or anything else, I know I'll buy more of it.
Well,
all right.
Yeah.
At least you're honest about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. I think this is a very good beer. I would definitely drink this. Webby, I'm not going to lie. I actually had a couple of these this weekend out of the 6-pack that I bought for the show. So I got a little bit of a head start on reviewing
cheater.
it. Yeah, I'm sorry, man. I just couldn't resist. And I loved it, man. I put back a couple of these on Saturday. It definitely has some good bitterness to it, but it's not like overwhelming like a West Coast style. And it gives you such a complex flavor. The way that the hops and the malt kind of play with each other and give you that nice lemongrassy feel to it. I'm liking this beer a lot. This is very unique, and it's another home run by Cigar City, which honestly, I've never had a bad beer from them, so I'm not surprised.
I was pleasantly surprised. I don't know what I expected, but wasn't super excited about this one, but after drinking it, I'm very glad that we decided to go with this one.
Great job, Cigar City. Nailed it. Again.
Hashtag nailed it. Well, that was a fun review. Thank you guys both for that. As you all know at this time, we like to determine whether or not we are going to chug. Usually Webby and I take turns, but to keep with what we've been doing, I think Glenn should decide.
Yes, I do too.
This is a lot of power you guys are giving me for some dude that just showed up. I mean, that like the quick and easy answer is to say, yeah, chug, because it feels like the right thing. But I'm going to say take your time. Enjoy it.
Oh, wow. All right.
Yeah. It sounded like such a nice thing that I don't think it should be wasted.
Okay. Well.
Unless you really want to. I can change my mind. I'm easily persuaded.
No, whatever you say, your decision is final. We will not try to sway your vote in any way.
I want to be a little bit different.
Well, hey, we appreciate that.
Nothing wrong with that.
If you guys have a beer that you would like for us to review, go ahead and throw it in the comments below. Download the Anchor app. Go ahead and let us know maybe a little story behind why you want us to review that beer. And if it is available where Webby and I are, of course, we'll get it. We'll do it. We'll review it for you.
Absolutely.
Yes. As you've seen now twice, we've had people reach out, say they want us to review a specific beer, and we've done it. So it's a good chance we'll do your beer as well.
So I'm excited for our next segment because this segment has been missing from the last few episodes of the Eddie and Webby podcast, and that is the tech segment.
Wow, I'm so glad we're bringing this back. This is going to be awesome.
Yes, and today I want to talk about podcasting. I want to talk about podcasting in general, and Glenn has a lot of podcasting experience, so we want to talk about that experience that Glenn has had, see if we can learn a few things. Maybe we can teach Glenn a few things after having 18 episodes under our belts.
I gotta say, I think I've already learned quite a bit. You guys run a very tight ship around here. This is a professional operation, so I'm impressed. I was a little thrown by the fact that you take it seriously.
We have fun with it. The whole purpose we're doing it is to have fun. But yeah, we do. I mean, some of the aspects we take seriously about it. We want to try and make it as professional as we can.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Glenn, what are the names of the podcasts that you have been involved in?
So the main one was Bonfire Tales. That one, actually, I think it's still available. I'm going to plug it. We haven't produced a new one in a couple of years now, but it's still available on Stitcher, at least for now. So that was the one where me and a good friend of mine would have friends of ours come on and tell a story about just something that happened in their life. So that was the main one. The hip hop one that I did some episodes for was called Our Take on the Breaks. So it was two guys that grew up loving hip hop, and then myself, who has a passing knowledge of it. So that one was a lot of fun to do. And the other one was called the Addicted Gamblers podcast. It had a catchier like first word title than that, but and it had a decent following. But we received feedback after I was on the show that I wasn't the right voice for for the topic. Sense of humor or whatever didn't match with the demographic or what they were talking about, which is fair, right? Because it is a very serious subject, and if I can't remember the name of it, then maybe I'm not the guy to to be a part of it. But it was a fun experience to do it.
I did listen to a few of the Bonfire Tale episodes, and I think my favorite one was when you guys talked about how you were having a bonfire party out in Pinckney, I believe it was, and you woke up the next morning and your friend's lawn was completely gone because the fire got out of control at night.
Gone. Yeah. That's one of our favorite stories from childhood, right? So we were excited to talk about that on the show. Yeah, everybody went to bed, thought the fire was out, and we woke up and well, I'll just be honest, the couches that were around the bonfire the night before, those were all gone, just springs that were left, and the fire burned to about 2 feet of the house, about the same distance away from the barn. It got to anything valuable and stopped.
Oh, man. So, Glenn, when did you start doing podcasting? How long ago?
Yeah, we started, it was probably around 2015, somewhere in that neighborhood. A good friend of mine, the one that I did that with, and who's really sort of the guy that was spearheading all the different shows. He was, living in California and trying to build his own media empire. So he thought, well, we'll start with podcasts. Those are cheap and easy to do. So we started putting that together. It was about 2015. We went for, I don't know, maybe 2 years or so that we were releasing stuff.
All right.
What did your technology setup look like? I mean, you guys were in 2 different locations of the country, similar to like what Webby and I are doing. Can you talk about what the whole technology setup was like and how you coordinated everything? Because I'm sure it was fairly complicated.
You'd think that the bar to enter into podcasting at any level is very low. So I feel like we produced good content, right? The what we were talking about, who we had on, was interesting and entertaining. But the equipment that we were using was stuff that most people probably have laying around the house. It was a webcam and Skype, and we ran the recordings through Audacity, which I think the basic one is free. So it wasn't overly complicated. And unfortunately that showed in the final product, right? Where the quality wasn't nearly as good as obviously what you guys are doing. But it's a nice medium because anybody can get into it.
So what advice would you give us, or even just anybody who's thinking about doing a podcast? So somebody that's just getting into it or thinking about it, what kind of advice would you give them going into it?
So I think it's really important to find your voice, what you want to say and what you want to talk about. Say finding your voice might sound a little cliche, but like knowing what your format is going to be and sort of what you're driving to, I think is really important, because that's what helps you build some sort of an audience for it and lets you keep doing it for a while. So our shows all had a format, and we had, a way that we were doing things. We had a few shows of Bonfire Tales that were a little more unscripted and those were fun for us to do, but they weren't, I mean, objectively, they weren't as entertaining as the ones that had a very specific purpose, and that was somebody telling their own story. But I think like you guys do, where you have a clear format, you have a clear like crowd that you're trying to reach. That's super important, and probably the most important part of it.
That's cool.
Nice. Very good advice. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So you talked about trying to find your audience or whatnot. So obviously there are some podcasts that are very unscripted, kind of just go with the flow, and then there's some that are heavily regimented. And we try and ride that line between the two while still keeping it interesting, but also allowing our listeners to know what to expect. What's your take on that?
Ours was all of them were very unscripted. It was all just off the cuff what we were talking about. The Brian, the other host, was a improv performer for a lot of years. I don't have any experience with that, but he was comfortable in that format. But I think it again goes back to what you're trying to produce. That's what we wanted, was for it to sound like it was just a bunch of people sitting around having a conversation, and there was very little editing. I think the only times that we took stuff out was when we said people's last names, for sure, and if we referred to somebody by a real, even first name, if the story maybe wasn't as flattering as it was supposed to be. I know there was one guy that came out and talked about how when he was younger, whenever he would get really drunk, he'd get naked, and he was in a job that wouldn't have lended itself very well to that information being out there. But we made sure to call him something else. I enjoyed the just off the cuff riffing part of it, sort of the natural thing, really like you guys have here. I mean, right now I'm just yammering on, and you're sitting there attentively. So thank you. Thanks for playing along with your guest host.
No, I love it. I love this kind of thing. But yeah, like I had mentioned before, Glenn is the first person I ever knew in the real world, in real life, that actually did a podcast. And I think you had shared it on Facebook or something like that. That's when I first learned that you were doing podcasting. So I was listening to them, and I thought they were great. And I always thought it'd be cool to do a podcast, but I never thought I would ever do one, just because I didn't think I'd be good enough at doing so. And Eddie here, for years, he's been saying we should do a podcast. And for years, I was like, I don't think that's for me. I just really didn't think I could talk about anything for more than like 2 minutes. Who knows? Maybe that's how it is now. Maybe after 2 minutes, people are like, yeah, I'm done with this.
Right. Turn it off. This guy sucks.
Right.
It's funny when you get in this format, you just start talking, and before you know it, you've filled way more time than you would even in a normal conversation.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, every episode when Eddie says, I think that's about it for the show, I just can't believe it, because I feel like we just started it, because it goes by so fast.
Yeah, you can fill an hour or 2 hours or whatever with really without breaking a sweat, batting an eye.
But yeah, it's been a great time, and I really appreciate you coming on here and telling us about your podcasting experience, giving us the advice. Do you have any other questions for Glenn about podcasting, Eddie?
No, man. Just where can our listeners or viewers find your podcast?
Stitcher. I think that's the only place that it's up still. The iTunes store, it's not up there anymore, but it is up on Stitcher when I checked on Saturday. So if you want, give it a shout, or give it a shot, or shout, whatever. Do what you want. Hopefully they like it. Hopefully we'll start doing it again. Honestly, thank you guys for letting me come and be a part of it, because it's letting me relive my glory days a little bit. It's fun. These things are a lot of fun to do.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and I definitely appreciate you being on here. And if you guys ever need a couple guests, I've never been a guest on somebody else's podcast. What about you, Eddie?
No, I've never been, but I think I'd be open to it.
So when we start again, you guys will be the top of the list.
Yes.
Nice.
That'll be our first crossover. Probably
Yeah.
for all of us, right? Yeah. Yeah, that's one for the books.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for that, Glenn. We do appreciate it, and I'm sure our listeners do as well, so thank you. We're hoping you can stick around just a little bit longer with us, because we're going to go into another topic, one that I love, and I know one that Webby loves, which is pickleball.
Oh, yeah. I love talking about pickleball. And Glenn, is it true that you are an avid pickleball player? That's the word on the street.
Yeah, I got my pickleball clubs, and I go to the pickleball range quite a bit.
Nice. So this might shock people, but we thought it would be great to have Glenn on here for the pickleball segment, knowing that he has never played pickleball, and until I asked him about it the other day, he had never even heard of pickleball.
Nope.
So I thought it would be fun to have somebody on that wasn't familiar with it, and just have them learn about it live on our show. And we had Glenn do a little research beforehand, and the only research he was allowed to do was to watch the Pickleball Anthem, the music video that we created about pickleball.
Yes. I loved it. I loved every minute of it. And after I watched it, it was stuck in my head for quite a while.
Nice.
Yeah, you guys did great.
Yeah, that happens when you hear that song, man. It gets stuck for days. So
Yeah.
So being that you know nothing about pickleball, based on the name
Right.
alone, what would you think the sport would be about?
I know as much as was in the video, right? So what you would think it was about would be some sort of like backyard game that people had invented with old, I don't know, pickle barrels or something like that. Maybe it's a game where you're throwing cucumbers at each other. It's not what I would expect. After seeing it in the video, that's not the image the name concocts.
So if somebody walked up to you and asked you, what is pickleball and how do you play it, after seeing the video, like what would you say to that person?
I'd say first you find an old man and ask him where the pickleball court is, because he'll know. But I guess the only way I would describe it is like if you had, I don't know, if you had a tennis court, but only a wiffle ball and the ends of boat oars, that would be how you would start your pickleball, I don't know, equipment. It's sort of like tennis, but with those requirements. That's the equipment: wiffle ball, boat, or tennis court. That's what you got.
Nice.
I don't think that's completely accurate. And
it's pretty much spot on, actually. It's spot on. No.
Hopefully I'm not offending anybody. Anybody else? I think you guys can handle it. The real diehards out there. Sorry.
So, Eddie, I don't know about you, but anytime I mention that I'm going to play pickleball or that I love playing pickleball in my free time, anytime I say that to somebody that's not familiar with the sport, they just kind of give me a weird look or they start laughing at me and they ask if I'm joking. Do you ever get that?
Yeah, I've had that a few times. You know, being down here in Florida, almost everybody knows what pickleball is. So when I meet people down here, they don't really question it a whole lot. But when I was in Grand Rapids and I told people I'm actually up here for a pickleball tournament, they're like, what in the hell is pickleball?
if you're talking to somebody that doesn't already play pickleball, chances are they're going to be completely clueless and have no idea what you're talking about.
So is it fair to call it a court? Is that what it is? Is a pickleball court?
Yeah.
Are there are local places that are they specific to pickleball, or is it really, joking aside, is it a tennis court?
So there are some dedicated courts in the area, and Michigan actually it's growing in popularity quite a bit in Michigan. I think it was just brought here like maybe 5 or 6 years ago, but it has really grown. And I'd say there's probably at least a couple courts within 10, 15 miles of any location you're at in Michigan, or in most areas anyway. There's a few outdoor dedicated courts that you can find. A lot of places that I play open pickleball at are either in gymnasiums where they have lines in the ground, or they have the lines taped off and then they put up portable nets, or tennis courts where they have the lines taped off.
Nice. That's cool to know that it is around.
Yeah, Glenn, I actually have 4 courts right in my community about 100 yards from my house. So that's ultimately how I got into it, is because me and my neighbors, we play a few times a week. Down here, it's very common to have them in communities. And I would say within probably a 15-mile radius, I have about 5 different public courts or groupings of courts that you can play at as well.
So I have a couple questions that are burning a hole in my soul. Hopefully you guys don't mind if I just throw those at you. So in the video you talk about the paddle, right? Is it a paddle? Is that what we call it?
Yes, it is a paddle.
Okay.
Yep, it looks like this right here.
Yes. So is it they're composite or wood? Is there one that's better than the other? Is it just for feel? Is it cost? Is it, if you're a traditionalist, do you prefer wood and hate it when people play with composite?
So I feel like the only people that use the wood paddles are typically beginners, because they're the cheapest paddles you can find are made of wood. And when the game first got created, the paddles were made of wood. So if you want to be true to like the original paddle, it's wood. But the people that play it regularly and a lot more seriously and competitively, they like to go with the composite or the graphite, because it is a much lighter material. Because the wood is heavier, so if you play with a wood paddle for a long period of time, your wrist is going to get pretty sore.
Right. So, are there different type? Now that I'm starting to really think about this, I'll try to keep it without going too long, just asking question after question. But are there different types or grades or weights or springiness to the paddles, or are they all just hard paddles?
Yeah, I mean, the different materials are going to give you different elements of the paddle. Heavier ones are going to give you more power, but lighter ones might also give you more power because you can swing them faster. If you have a little bit less of a hard surface, it's going to give you a little bit more control of the ball. Maybe you want to get some spin on it, so you might want to go with a composite material. It all depends on what you're looking for. I actually just moved over from a certain paddle. For those of you guys that know, it's the Onyx Z5. And I went over to the new Paddle Tech Bantam EXL because I wanted a little bit more control over it. I feel like the Z5 was a little bit too poppy for me, and it was hard for me to slow the game down. This paddle is about a full ounce less in weight, and I feel like it just gives me a little bit more control. So it's finding the paddle that matches your style. If you're a really strong player, then you probably want to go with a certain style that would slow you down. But if you're one that's maybe a little bit weaker, maybe a little bit older, you might want to go with something that's more power so you don't have to swing as hard at the ball.
Okay. And the scoring, right? Is there something about playing on a tennis court that means you have to score it in the most obscure way possible? Because you didn't explain it in the video, but you flashed some scores up there and they looked complicated, right? There's 3 lines, but I'm imagining there's only 2 teams.
But yeah, it is an unspoken rule that anything played on a tennis court or anything resembling a tennis court must be as complicated as possible when it comes to scoring. That is the way it is.
Okay, that's what I thought. I think that was in our tennis unit in gym class.
But yeah, pickleball, the scoring is by far the hardest thing to learn. But like once you learn it, it makes a lot of sense and it's not too bad. But when you're first learning the game, I'd say that by far is the hardest thing to pick up is the proper way to keep score.
That makes sense just based off of the graphic that you guys put on the screen.
But yeah, like the easiest way to describe how you keep score is you say your team's score first, the opposing team's score second, and then your serving position. So you're either server number 1 or server number 2 for that rally. So it's really not that bad, but when you're first learning the game, it's a bit confusing.
And does it go up by ones? Is that all it is? Okay.
Yep.
So it's really not that bad. It's not like tennis where it really is very confusing. You know.
No, yeah, I still don't know how to keep score in tennis.
No.
I've never been much of a tennis player, but like 30 love or whatever, I don't know what that means.
No.
Yeah, I mean, the scoring can be a little complicated at first, but honestly, once you play a few times, it just becomes like second nature. That's probably like most games out there. Once you get the scoring down, you know how to do it. It's pretty easy from there.
For sure. But yeah, I thought that was a good discussion. Thank you for joining us for that, Glenn, and I hope you learned something about pickleball.
Absolutely. This was fun. Thanks. I love talking about pickleball now.
I'm telling you, man, you're going to get hooked.
I will be.
From here on out, whenever we chat at work, it's going to be about pickleball, I think.
I don't know why we'd talk about anything else.
Yep. There's nothing else to talk about.
Nope.
Well, Glenn, we cannot thank you enough for being on the show today. We really appreciate it. You've been a wonderful guest host. I'm sure our listeners and our viewers appreciate it as well.
Yes, thank you very, very much. I thought that was awesome. It was a good time. I'm glad you were able to join us for the whole entire episode.
Thanks. This was a blast. I'll be back every week from now on.
Nice.
I'm taking a little advantage of the mood right now.
I love it, man.
Thanks, guys. This was fun.
Well, honestly, you are welcome anytime. This was episode 19, so that means there are 19 of you still listening out there, and we thank each and every one of you guys. You, 19, yes.
Yeah, and in case you didn't know, Glenn, every episode we earn a viewer that sticks around till the very end of the episode, so because we're on episode 19, we have 19 people that are watching us right this moment from beginning to end.
As always, we like to hear feedback, good or bad. Go ahead and throw it in the comments below. You can tweet to us or Instagram to us. I use that as a verb. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to, but you can Instagram us, both at Eddie and Webby. You can download the Anchor app and leave us a voice message, and like this, and then you leave us a voice message, and we can play it on the air. We've had some good ones recently, which is awesome. And you can download the Pickleball Anthem on iTunes and many other digital music platforms.
So many others. Too many to count.
Go out there and get yourself a copy of that. And on that note, I'm Eddie.
I'm Glenny.
And until next time, this is Webby, not Eddie, or Glenny, signing off.
See ya.
Oh, nice. Thanks, Walanda.
Yes, thank you, Walanda.